Hello students, hope you all are doing well. Today we will start chapter number 5, Reproduction in Plants. As we know, all living organisms are capable to giving birth of young ones, which are either exactly same or some are similar to them. Can you tell me what is the process of giving birth to young ones? Yes, this process is known as reproduction. In simple words, reproduction is the process in which living organisms give birth to an offspring which is same or similar. Now, when we see living organism, it should include plants as well. Yes, of course. We have seen a new plant emerging from a seed sown in the ground. Where does the seed come from? It comes from plants. As you know, these are the parts of plants: flower, fruit, stem, leaf, bud, node. These are collectively called shoot system. And the other one is root system. Primary roots, secondary roots are collectively called root system. Okay, now we will discuss reproduction in plants can occur in two ways. First one is sexual reproduction and the other one is asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction is the reproduction in which new plants are produced without the help of seed. In contrasting the previous type, sexual reproduction is the reproduction in which new plants are produced with the help of seed. Now, there are many different types of asexual reproduction. First one is vegetative reproduction, second one is propagation, third one is budding, fourth one is fragmentation, and the last one is spore formation. First we will discuss vegetative reproduction. And you know, vegetative reproduction is the type of asexual reproduction. Now, in vegetative reproduction, in this method, new plants are produced from the vegetative part like root, stem or leaves. For example, if the stem cutting of a rose plant or money plant is planted in the soil, we can get a new plant. It is the type of asexual reproduction. Clear? Now next one is budding. In this method, a small projection called bud is formed on the yeast cell. The bud grows and become a yeast cell. Then further yeast cell grow and produce more yeast. Next one is fragmentation. In this method, the plant breaks up into two or more fragmentation and each fragment grow into a new plant. An example of this type of asexual reproduction is Spirogyra. So next one is spore formation. In this method, the spores germinates and produce new plants. Vegetative reproduction. In this method, new plants are produced from the vegetative parts like root, stem or leaves. Vegetative part is a non-reproductive part, and in this part, root, stem and leaves are included. In a plant, root, stem and leaves are vegetative part and this part is called non-reproductive part. So in a plant, What is reproductive part? The reproductive part of plant is flowers. So there are two methods to produce plant. First one is natural method and second one is artificial method. So it means we can produce plant by a natural method and by artificial method. In natural method, roots, stem, rhizomes, bulbs, tubers, combs and leaves are included. But in artificial method, cutting, grafting, layering and tissue culture are included. So now when stem grows underground, it can generate tuber, rhizome, bulb and combs. Let us talk about one by one. First one is rhizome. Due to food deposition, end of underground main stem gets swollen. Nodes send out both shoots and roots. Ginger is an example of rhizome. Next one is bulb. The bulb has a condensed stem, thickened base to which the fleshy leaves are attached. The bulb grows by the growth of roots and leaves. Onion is an example of bulb. So now next one is tubers. Due to food deposition, end of underground branches are swollen. Birds send out both shoots and roots. Potatoes is an example of tubers. Next one is combs. When lots of rhizomes join together, which develop into new plants. For example, gladioles. So now let us talk about artificial methods of reproduction. First one is cutting. It is a method in which a cutting from a plant is taken and planted. This cutting is a part of the stem or the branch of the plant. For example, roses. Next one is grafting. Sometimes two plants are joined together so that both of them can provide the desired characteristics to the new plants. One plant remains stored in the ground, which is called stalk, and provides the essential nutrients and water, while other plant stem is attached to it. So this method produce new plants. For example, apple. Now next one is layering. It is a technique of plant propagation where the new plant remains at least partially attached to the mother plant while forming new roots and can occur naturally through modified stem structures. Next one is tissue culture. Tissue culture involves the use of small pieces of plant tissue which are cultured in special conditions. Using the appropriate growing conditions for each plant can be induced to rapidly produce new shoot, and with the addition of suitable hormones, new roots. So let us discuss about sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction involves gametes in which new individual born when gametes of both male and female parents fuse. As we all know, flowers are reproductive part of plants. There are two types of flowers, complete or bisexual flowers, and the second one is incomplete or unisexual flowers. Incomplete or bisexual flowers, it contains both male and female reproductive cells, and they have four parts: sepal, petals, stamens and pistils. The next one is incomplete or unisexual flowers. It contains either male or female reproductive cells. They have only three parts. First one is sepal, petals, stamen or pistil. So now we will discuss about stamen. Stamen is a male organ which contain pollen grain and produce male cells. Next one is pistil, composed of stigma, style and ovary. The ovary produce female cells. So now we will discuss about pollination. Pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma of a flower is known as pollination. There are two types of pollination. First one is self-pollination and the other one is cross-pollination. In self-pollination, pollen grains are transferred from anther to stigma of the same flower. But in cross-pollination, pollen grains are transferred from anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower of the same kind or different plants. Now we will discuss agents of pollination. First one is wind. When wind blows away pollen grains from the anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower. Features of flowers are small, not brightly colored, do not produce nectar. Features of pollen grains are very light because a heavy pollen grain may not be transferred when wind blows. A lightweight pollen grain can easily transfer. The second one is produced in a large number. The example, pollination in wheat, rice and maize. Next one is water. Pollen grains are released into the water, are carried out by water current to other flowers. Examples, aquatic plants such as seagrass and velineria. So next we will discuss insects. Insects visit flowers for nectar. Some pollen grains stick to the body parts of these insects. When these insects visit another flower, the pollen grains fall on the stigma. Features of flowers are sweet smell, brightly colored petals for diurnal insects, for example rose, sunflower. White light green petals for nocturnal insects, for example jasmine and cacti. Rich in nectar. Features of pollen grains are sticky pollen grains. Now next we will discuss about fertilization. Fertilization is a process of fusion of male and female gametes is called fertilization. After successful pollination, the stigma secretes nutrients. Pollen grain absorb these nutrients and start growing in the form of a thin tube called pollen tube until it reaches the ovule inside ovary. Then release male gametes into the ovule. Fertilization takes place, result in the formation of zygote. Next one is fruit and seed formation. After fertilization, ovary enlarge to form the fruit. The wall of the ovary becomes the fruit wall. The ovules become seeds. A fruit may have one or more seeds. Petals, sepals and other parts of the flowers usually dry up and fall off. The fruit is a seed-bearing part or the ripened ovary of the flowering plant. The seed is a ripened ovule which contains an embryo and is covered by a protective coat. The process by which the embryo in the seed becomes active and begins to grow into a new plant is called germination. Next one is seed dispersal. Dispersal means scattered. The process by which seed or fruit are scattered is called dispersal. Dispersal takes place by several mechanisms. First one is dispersal by explosion, dispersal by wind, dispersal by water and dispersal by animals. Example of dispersal by explosion is castor, pea plants And the example of dispersal by wind is maple, dispersal by water is coconut, and dispersal of animals by plants having fleshy fruits.